Good morning, everybody. This is the demonstration for creating a triangle tessellation. We are going to rearrange the area of an equilateral triangle, and in Adobe Illustrator that is going to require us to be pretty precise. So when you do this lesson, make sure that you follow the degrees listed as you go, so that everything will fit together nicely in the end. To start off, we need a new document with a three-sided polygon. It says the size is 150 points. Let's go ahead and plug that in just to see what happens. All right, so I've got my document. I'll save it as Hatchl Triangle too many S's. Tessellation. Cool. Now I need the polygon tool. That is hidden underneath the rectangle tool. I'll select my polygon. I'll click one time, and it's going to tell me the current radius is 0.6944. I want it to be 150 space PT for 150 points. That is just over 2 inches, and I'm going to choose 3 sides. Now when I click OK, it gives me a triangle that is pointing upward. I actually want my triangle to be pointing to the side. So the first thing it's going to do is tell us to rotate that triangle minus 90 degrees. So we're going to go to, let me move it down toward the middle with my selection tool. I'm going to go Object, Transform, Rotate. And I'm going to choose minus 90. When I press OK, there it is. So this will be my template. Now, a little known secret about this, I'm going to go ahead and copy it real quick and then lock it in place. When you tessellate an equilateral triangle, if I press Control V, I just copied, now I have 2 copies. The first one is locked. The next one, I'm going to give a different fill color. Now I am going to rotate this one. Transform, rotate. I'll do a 60-degree copy. That one would fit in here. Okay, I'll take this one, transform, rotate, another 60-degree, whoops, I didn't hit copy. Oh well. Transform, rotate, copy. Okay. You can see the pattern is starting to build. Press D to give that the default black and white. And then to kind of give you a visualization of how this tessellates together in tiles, if I press Control C, Control V, and then I rotate it exactly 60 degrees. Well, I guess I'll actually have to rotate it this way, which would be 315 degrees. Now, let's see. Nope. Have to flip it around the other way. And that should fit right in there. Now, one of the reasons that I advise you guys when you follow the instructions to do them precisely is so that you won't have these weird little gaps. Okay, so that's eventually what we're going to end up with, a hexagon, 6-sided polygon, can be divided into equilateral triangles like so. Okay, you don't have to do this part, but I'm just showing you that's how it will eventually tile together. All right, now this is our guide. We are going to rearrange the equilateral triangle to be something a little more interesting. Now again, we have the choice of the pen or the pencil tool. I am a fan of the pencil tool. I'm going to go ahead and choose magenta and brown, just because those are really odd colors that will stand out a lot. The first line we are going to create is going to be the vertical line. So we're going to make a new vertical line, similar but not identical to what I've shown. All right, and then we will copy it, rotate it negative 60 degrees, and lay it down across that. So the first 2 sides are the same line path shape. It just needs to be rotated. So let's go ahead and create one. I am going to click on the corner and drag to draw something out. And I'll have a little something happening in here. All right. Now, for whatever reason, my mouse kind of messed up. It wouldn't let me drag further down here. But if I hover over it, you see how it wants to join and connect? It's giving me that little slash. I can do that, or I could just take the direct selection arrow and drag my point down to the corner and then just go ahead and give it a little bit of curvature. Okay. If I want to adjust any of the curves, all of my adjustment tools are here for your use. You've used them in the past. If you have too many points and you want to get rid of a few, you can remove some of the anchor points. That is entirely up to you guys. Alright, the only thing is, once you get your design created, whatever it looks like when you copy it, that's how it has to stay for the remainder of what you're working on. So if I decide I want to move this back and add a little more curvature, that is fine. All of this is permitted, but once I use my black selection arrow and make a copy, right, let me go ahead and give this that blue fill that I wanted. Right. Once I copy this, transform, rotate, -60 with a copy, I can't go back and make any other changes. Now, I also have to look for areas of overlap. This corner matches up pretty nicely. This is touching the corners pretty nicely. The third line, the end point here, is the trickiest part, and my students most regularly run into trouble here. What you have to realize is you're going to design it into halves. So I'm going to keep mine relatively basic. All right. When we look at the third line, whatever goes up on this side has to be mirrored the other side coming down. So we're going to build it in two parts. All right. The first half we get to draw however we want. Then the second half will be a 180-degree copy. All right. So let's give that a shot. I'm going to go to my pencil tool, hit the letter N, okay, and I'm going to click and drag, and I'm going upward so that I don't overlap with what I currently have, but I'm going to try to draw close to the midpoint. I really don't know if that is the midpoint or not. Let me see what happens if I rotate this, transform, rotate. We're going to type 180 and press copy. Okay. Now at this point, these two are opposite. Okay. Now, I may have done that almost perfectly. Chances are you won't, and so I will change my demonstration so I don't. All right. So I'll make this a little smaller before I transform, rotate a 180-degree copy. All right. And I'm going to line up. Let me zoom in a bit. I'm going to line up the open endpoints here. All right, then I'm going to use my lasso tool and I'm going to join them. Now once I've joined this together, you can see they have the same fill now. Okay, it's not the right size. It's not quite big enough, but I can select the newly joined together lines and I can stretch them out so that they touch the corners. Now the reason that works is you're stretching them both equally. Okay, if I squish it, they both squish equally. If I squash it, they both squash equally. And so when I stretch, they are both still the same curve. Now, you might be wondering why is one blocking the other? Well, eventually when we join all the points together at the corners, they'll all have the same fill color. So let's try that. The instructions will tell us you have to now, once you've resized and everything is touching on the corners, now it is time to join the corners. I might have kind of glossed over it, yeah. Because this is the third time we're working on something where we have to join open paths together, it should be familiar to each of you. So let's Q for the lasso. I'm going to circle and then Control J to join. Good. I now have a line that runs from this corner all the way down to this corner. We just have to get this last set selected. So I'm going to lasso circle the end, Control J, and then lasso circle the end, Control J. This is my tessellatable shape. I am going to rotate it 60 degrees each time. I'll do rotate 60 with a copy. All right, I'll give this one a different fill color so you can kind of see how they work. And this should fit in right there. Okay. I can take this one, transform, rotate 60 degrees with a copy. Okay, move that down into place. And I'll give it the same fill color as the other. Now if you wanted to save yourself some time, you could select all three, do transform, rotate, and since there's three of them, it wouldn't be 60. 3 times 60 is 180. So I'll ask for a 180 copy. Then this one, go ahead and give it the default fill and stroke so you can see. Looking pretty good. So I need this one and this one to have the eyedropper pattern. Press I so we can grab that fill, and we need this last one to have the eyedropper pattern of that gradient. Now what's fun about this is once you have your set of three, I could take my three gray ones, and with the gradient tool I could ask them to be radial, or I could press G to get the gradient tool itself, and I can apply a radial gradient to each of them. What happened there? Let's see. It's not showing up in one of them. That's very bizarre. Let's try it again. We'll hit D, and we're going to press G for the gradient tool. I want to apply a gradient, this gradient. Okay, try that again. Okay, now it's working. So if I click and drag, I can have that gradient be nice and centered. I can change the size. I could even, if I want to expand this, let me drag an extra color. I'll drag some blue down into the gradient. Yep. I don't like that very much, but we'll do this. Dark blue on the end. Oh, that's fun. Okay. So now I've got a nice little pattern going on there. I could do the same thing. Shift, click with my warm ones, except I'm going to leave them having their own little tiny miniature sun right in the center of each of the three. I'm just going to make the yellow more prominent by dragging that gradient outward. There we go. Cool. Alright, so now I have a set of 6. This I will group together and tile. This, because it is 6 equilateral triangles, will tile together. I can hold the Alt key down. You can see it will fit in there. Okay, edge it a bit. I can hold the Alt key down. You see it fits in there. Okay, so the pattern is working. What I want to do now, I'm actually going to take this, kind of move it off to the side, shift resizing it, okay, and I'm going to drag this into my patterns and swatches window. So just like I did with the other square patterns, I'm going to make a large rectangle which will show the repetition of my pattern. Okay, it's pretty big for the page, but I'm not really super concerned about that. It's definitely not touching. There's gaps, so I have to double click my swatch. That will let me go into the pattern view. Now, previously we were doing a basic grid type, so that worked out fine for us. Now, we actually need to do a hex for hexagon, because when you put 6 equilateral triangles together, you get a hexagon. I'm going to tell it to be hex by column or hex by row. Looks like hex by row is the one that I want, so I'm going to Control A to select all my pieces. Whoops, I hit save in the middle of that and it booted me out. Let's change it again. Control A, okay, and I am not sizing the tile to the art at present. I'm just going to stretch this out and stretch this up and stretch this out, and hopefully I will get a pattern that fills with no gaps. Looking pretty good. Alright, so I'm going to hit done, and now my pattern is repeating. Now the other thing that you could do, you could change your pattern and tell it to size tile with the art, and if we want we can shrink it down, then uncheck size tile with the art, then you can resize it to get it to fit. Okay. So done, and we get to see it repeat a little more. One of the things that I've never quite understood is why it demands that this hexagon pattern be elongated, but hey, we'll save that one for another day. We're going to save the Triangle Tessellations. We will export as a JPEG. Okay, we will use the artboard, so it'll ignore the object we have over there. CMYK is fine, 310, all good settings. And we're done.